Hello and welcome to this video, and what can I say? That was 2025. I'm recording this on Christmas Eve, and this will be premiering on New Year's Eve, so I hope nothing terrible happens in the next week, because obviously I won't be talking about it here. Who knows? Maybe it's the end of the world as we know it. Who knows what's happened? But so I'm going to be casting my eyes and ears back over this year, but to be really pedantic, which I know many of you are here, especially the progressive rock fans, I will only be doing it for 51 weeks of the year. The final week will not be covered, you know. So let's hope that nobody dies in that last week, when I never usually hope that people die anyway, so it's a stupid thing to say. But there, I've said it. But let's even more than normal, let's hope that no jazz or rock legends die in the next 7 days. If they can just make it into the next year, and then we can focus on that when it happens, right? So where do I start with this? I'm not very good at these types of things. You know, I have very little interest or liking of modern culture. I want the world to go back to what it was like in the 1970s through my rose-tinted spectacle view of the 1970s, where bands had long hair and flowing robes and they made albums about wizards and the songs were 20 minutes long. That's all I want out of life. Yeah, I don't ask for much. And this modern world, I find most of the music absolutely horrible. Now, I start this by saying, because I ignore so much music that's out there, contemporary music, when it does come my way, I sort of reject it like that, you know, in a real sort of middle-aged, curmudgeonly, you know, male sort of, I don't want to know about that. No, I don't care. There was one pop single that came out this year, however, that I absolutely loved, and I'm going to attempt to put it on here, which means I will lose the monetization for this video, but I want to play it so much because I thought it was so cool. But if there is now nothing on, if there's nothing there, it's because they decided to block the video, so I can't get the video out. It would have gone up. I will have uploaded the video when it's done. It says the rights holder to this song has said, no, you won't be allowed to even show it to anybody. And sometimes they'll go, you can show it to everybody in the UK, but not anybody in America. And I think, well, I can't have that. You know, I want the people in America to see it. And of course, with the single I'm picking, Americans might not know it. And so I would be doing the artist a favour, albeit a very tiny, small favour, but a favour nonetheless. And for doing this favour, I will probably get demonetised anyway. So this is my favourite pop single of 2025. It's by a singer called Ray, R-A-Y-E. It's off a forthcoming album that's coming out next year, and the track is called Where Is My Husband? And if I got through the, copyright Nazis, then it went a bit like this.
Your husband is coming.
I really like that. I liked her vocal on it. I like the way the vocal had been recorded. There's no auto-tune, and you could actually hear a bit of room sound. I loved the arrangement of the backing vocals. I thought the melody was really interesting. It's got real players on it, and they sound like they're really playing. The drums sound roomy and nice. The harmonic arrangement is complex. It's funny. It's quirky. And I love the production on it. I love that tune. And so it proves that modern people can make records I like. And when I heard this, I went back and checked Ray's first album out. And from an objective point of view, it's a pretty cool pop album, but it does succumb to a lot of the awful things. Too much program stuff, not enough real playing, everything auto-tuned, everything too tight, you know. Not soulful, not loose and floppy and cool, you know. Nobody's loose and floppy and cool. Everyone is uptight now, and Ray, and I like it, and I think she's got a great image. She performs great. This is a great artist. This is what we want, and so I'm looking forward to her new album. But I must admit, her first album was okay, but it didn't set my ears alight like that single did. So that was my favourite single. You probably didn't expect that. Now, shall we move on to my favourite albums of 2025? There won't be very many, but I have put some down here. I'm a huge fan of the psychedelic, out there, science fiction, alien rock of the band Henge, which for me are like a rave version of Gong with dubby overtones. And Henge keep making newer and newer albums which are better and better as they find this formula that is absolutely magical. They're incredible players. The composition's incredible. They can be very catchy and they can be very out there. It's funny, it's entertaining. I love them. They brought out the album Journey to Voltus B. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And that was one of my favourite albums of the year. I have been listening to it over and over again. And of course, Journey to Voltus B on the vinyl was very interesting because it was a concept album that told a story. But on side 2, you had 2 grooves. So when you put it on, you had a 50-50 chance of it playing one ending or playing another ending. And I love the idea of that. And I love the idea that they utilise the mechanical aspects of the vinyl album. Because I tell you this, physical products is coming back. Right? It's going to change the game, right? I don't think anyone else would predict this, but I really believe physical products are going to come back. I think vinyl's going to come back, and I think CDs are going to come back. But it's going to be completely democratized. I was very excited to discover the website Elastic Stage this year, which is like a physical version of Bandcamp. If you're an artist, you can upload your album there, just WAV files. You can put your artwork up there, and then you can let the world know. And people then can go there and they can order from Elastic Stage a vinyl copy of your album or a CD copy, and you have nothing to do it. They organise it and they put it out there. And I'll show you, if you wait there, I have one of the vinyl albums here. So this is the vinyl album there. This was very exciting. Even if you only sell one copy, it doesn't matter because they've covered it in the costs, and the costs are reasonable, right? And so you get this. This is all done by Elastic Stage. You get inner artwork. It's high quality pressing. I'm really impressed. And that enables artists to do very low runs. Now, of course, all us underground artists who don't have record deals. Now, I have a record deal at the moment. I'm not utilising it. I've had 11, 12, 13 record deals in my time. I've released stuff on major labels. I know how labels work. I don't want a deal. I want to be able to make the music I like and bang it out. And if one person buys an vinyl album, I'm happy. Because all I really want to do is create a situation where I can communicate my musical ideas to another person. When I make a recording, I imagine someone else is listening to it at the end on the other side of it. And I imagine I'm trying to communicate something wonderful to them so that they can have a wonderful time and get fired up in the same way as I'm getting fired up by the music that I'm making, which my process of making music is very based upon the subconscious and trying to tune into something that's out there and not inside you. And when the music comes through, it's like you're revealing something wonderful and it communicates that to someone else. And if it's just a couple of people who hear it, I'm happy. And so I start to see music acting inside something that's much bigger. Now, the whole of this video could get pulled into this, but this for me is something that came out of 2025 when everybody was talking about AI and what AI is going to do. And I don't think people really realize the full extent to how AI will affect everything, including the creative world. Because I think there will have to be, and this goes so against postmodernism, it goes so against identity theory, but the only way a human being can deal with this is by creating a moral statement that anything that AI creates is not art, because it's basically a copy of art. Most art by human beings is also just a copy of art. And that distinction will have to emerge, and that will bring a level of elitism back into creativity, which is where elitism should be, where meritocracies should exist. They should exist in the arts. And that movement, I think, will drive people to search out what somebody's really saying. It will be a little bit like the rock music world, the rock audience, valuing someone writing their own songs. In the end, it makes no real difference whether someone's written their song or not, but we believe that there is something noble and virtuous about writing your own song. And I think we will have a situation within music where the value of someone, a human being making it, and the idiosyncrasies that are apparent, because of course with a songwriter, what we are appreciating in the end is their own view of how they feel about something, rather than some 50-year-old bloke imagine what it's like to be a teenage girl in love. They're talking from real emotions. And I think real emotions, real feelings in the music will mean a greater emphasis put on the chaos of individualism, i.e. mistakes, feel, expression. And when you look at the way arts have gone now and how they have swung against that towards the realm of perfectionism, I think it's about to swing back. So this was the big event of 2025, was the realization, I believe, that that's what's going to happen. Very exciting. Shall I get back on subject? So what other albums did I rate? Well, the long-awaited LSD by Cardiacs came out. A couple of years ago, I hooked up with the bass player of Napalm Death, and he said, is there any chance I can borrow your studio for a day? So, Shane came down and he was putting a backing vocal down, and it was a backing vocal on this mythical album, LSD by the Cardiacs. Now, of course, Tim Smith, the sort of a leader of the Cardiacs, died a few years ago, and before that he'd been incapacitated by brain damage incurred from having a huge heart attack. So in other words, his input, which is essential, was no longer there for the Cardiacs. Cardiacs had written an album with Tim, and this album was sort of mythic. Cardiacs fans would say, does it exist, doesn't it exist? So when Shane came down, he was going, I'm doing the vocals for this album. And Tim's brother Jimmy actually rang up in the session and asked him some questions about it. I got very excited. I was told to keep my mouth shut. And so I was excited about this album. You know, I knew about it. I heard it. I knew it sounded like the Cardiacs. I knew it was not going to be something else, you know. So it was very exciting. Album came out, you know, great album, absolutely wonderful. Like many Cardiacs albums, I always find it an exhausting listen, and I've been trying to get through it, but to be honest, I think I really need to have Cardiacs albums on physical. I don't think having downloads of it and trying to sit down and get my laptop up and put headphones on, I find that really difficult. I tend to like to have an album on CD so I can pop it into wherever I'm at, either here or in my car, and live with it and let it speak to me without me putting against specific time. So I've struggled with it a little bit. It's a very intense album. It's full Cardiacs, you know. Sing to God is one of the greatest albums ever made, and I struggle with that. It's an intense experience. But anyway, that was a very important album. Another album that I think has grown on me is The Overview by Stephen Wilson, a major release, because not only was he returning to prog, but he was making a concept album with basically one track that went through side 1 and 2. And it was linked to a multimedia experience that he then took out on tour. When I first heard the album, like a lot of modern albums, the production was too much for me. It didn't sound like real people were on the album. It sounded too overproduced, too perfect, not enough room sound, not enough mistakes. It really puts me off modern recording. Going out and seeing it live, it was like the album became a sketch in which the musicians poured reality into it. And I'm like going, God, they've got this rehearsed. Why didn't he just use the album as a demo and then go in and record it with real musicians all playing at the same time? I am hungry for that sound. So I'll just kick my camera then. And but seeing it live, I went back to the album. I enjoyed it a lot more. It's a great album. In terms of Stephen Wilson's vision, incredible. But again, he's got a normal label. He's putting it out as an album, and he went out and toured it. And yet this was a video project, and you felt that the video project was at the back somewhere, and I wanted to bring it right to the front. And I don't know whether artists and musicians have really truly let go of the old way of doing things and embraced the future of what you could do with music, you know. And it was there. That's why I found it impressive. Stephen Wilson was dealing with that, but could not help but escape the industry within which he is confined, right? I think everybody should be able to download that album for free. I think everyone should be able to have downloaded the video for free. I think they should have had full access to it. The only thing you would have had to buy would be the physical product, and you could choose what sort of physical product you want. I think that's really, really important. But I think experiencing it, really, something like this should not be an album release. It should be a Netflix release or Amazon Prime release, where the thing comes out and you watch it, because film companies are still making money with that model. I've tried to do it with my last... I made an album specifically to try this out, and it was released on YouTube. And of course, it's made next to nothing in terms of the ad revenue. Last time I looked, it made £25. But that was off 4,000 views. That is beating Spotify tenfold. I will do a video on this in the new year. Once we've got, say, a couple of months worth of listens in. Now, you know, I'll get into this later. This is what I've learned, I suppose, from 2005, right? The two albums I really enjoyed was On the Edge, bracket, of What Could Be, close bracket, by Dave Bainbridge. an absolute masterpiece and a fantastic progressive rock album that doesn't reinvent the wheel but doesn't fall into all the cliches. It's full of heart and soul and love, and it's epic, it's complex, it's absolutely incredible. The vocal arrangements, the choirs on there, everything is unbelievable. If you like straight down the line prog, and I do, and for all my love of experimental stuff and mad psycho funk and all the stuff I love, I also love a great proper slab of prog. And for me, Dave delivers it. Why? Because he gets the fusion bit of it. He gets the funkiness of it. He gets the idea of having solos, right? It doesn't fall into the straitjacket that a lot of modern prog does, which is to have no heart and soul. This is what we're missing. The world is missing heart and soul. Another album that I devoured and absolutely loved every little bloody note on there was Postcards from the Past by Gary Husband. And that's my suggestion if you're into fusion. This is tracks that he has made over the years, going right back to the mid-70s. It's like almost 50 years in the making. And on there's a whole host of incredible stuff. It really showcases the brilliance of Gary Husband as a musician, not only as a drummer, but also as a keyboard player, in a load of interesting context. But also you get a really incredible recording of Force Majeure, the supergroup that he put together in the 2000s, which featured Matt Garrison and Randy Brecker and Jerry Goodman for the Mavish Orchestra, Jim Beard. Really incredible band. Went out and did a tour, and there's some great recordings of that there, and also some recordings from the genesis of the Alan Holdsworth group with Gary from the late 70s. An incredibly historic recording from the IOU album, the first album, and possibly a recording of the original session that disappeared. Very exciting stuff. But actually, when you play it, it's some of the most intense Holdsworth I have ever heard. The band's on fire. And then he's also got on there some Holdsworth pre-IOU. Incredible stuff. So those are the albums that I really liked from 2025. I didn't want to bog you down, but they're the ones I suggest you go and check out. Of course, at the end of the year, I usually do a video where I go through those people who have died in the year. I'm going to do it here and go a little bit faster. I haven't got everybody. If you really want to see a brilliant video which goes through the music deaths, go over to Classic Album Review. He's put one out. It was absolutely brilliant. So many people that I'd missed. But I'm just going to go through some of the biggies here, and I'm going to do sort of mainstream rock guys, maybe a few fusion guys, and then I'm going to do the jazz ones separate. Right, so January, we saw the death of Laurie Holloway. Now, Laurie Holloway was a pianist and an arranger that featured on many BBC television programmes. If you're watching, say, the Des O'Connor show, he would be in the background conducting the big band. I believe he was involved in all sorts of things. And so this guy was a sort of household name in the 70s. He was 86 years old when he died. John Sykes, who for me was one of the early 80s shreddy guitar players. I mean, everyone goes on about Eddie Van Halen and they talk about Malmsteen, but back in 1980-81, for me, the guy that was shredding like nobody else was John Sykes in the Tigers of Pantang. He then went on to join Thin Lizzy and contributed to perhaps their heaviest album and one of their greatest albums, Thunder and Lightning. And then he went on to join Whitesnake. I toured with the reformed Thin Lizzy with John Sykes back in 2004, I believe. And so, I saw him play up close. Fantastic player, great singer. In reality, doing the tour with him, he was a little bit upset to not be playing the big venues, which is a little bit difficult. So I relay that, but an incredible player and someone who I loved. When I was 12, 13 years old, this could well be my favourite guitar player in 1981. And he looked so cool as well with the long blonde hair, very great. He died at 65 years old. Also, January saw the death of Marianne Faithfull, who is probably most famous for, her association with Mick Jagger, but she was an actress that did incredible films like Girl on a Motorcycle, which personifies something in the 1960s, a sexiness, I think, and a sexiness and wildness. Marianne Faithfull was sort of almost like the ultimate hippie 60s girl, wasn't she? And she made a whole ton of albums. And some of those albums were very important and very influential. She was 78 years old. February saw the death of Mike Ratledge from Soft Machine. That was a big one. I don't know how many of the original Soft Machine are left. The very first lineup, the Wildflowers, like the Kevin Ayers isn't there. Michael Ratledge isn't there. I think is it just Robert Wyatt now? So, and an important one died. He was 81 years old. February also saw the death of Rick Buckler, the drummer with The Jam. The Jam are one of the greatest power trios. I was chatting about The Jam with my daughter on the way over here, and she goes, "Do you like The Jam?" I said, "I really like them." She said, "Have you ever talked about them on your channel?" I went, "Nah. It's not the sort of band I talk about." And then, weirdly, here I am talking about them. I love The Jam. Incredible band. Paul Weller's a great songwriter, and they had something going on, the classic power trio. And with the death of Rick Buckler, that puts that sort of coming together, that reformation's not going to happen. The mysterious and mystical Jamie Muir died at 82 years old, most famous for being the percussionist on Lark's Tongues in Aspic and going out and frightening anybody with his strange onstage antics. Before that, he'd been involved in the free jazz scene, a very important musician who then went on to become, I think, a monk, which is why he left King Crimson. He's died at 82. And the great Roberta Flack died at 88 years old. Not only famous for, writing tunes like Feel Like Making Love and, those sort of great songs, but was also the person that was really fundamental in discovering Zabel, the guy that I've championed here, the mysterious Zabel. Go and check him out, who is still alive, apparently. There's more to be from that story. There's going to be more from that, I think. Right, so that was who died in February. March saw the death of the neo-soul singer Angie Stone at 63 years old. Not an advanced age. She was a great artist. I really liked Angie Stone. And the neo-soul people obviously very influenced by the sort of fusion and funk fusion of the 70s. No one more than Roy Ayers, who also died in March at the age of 84. In April, at the age of 70, we saw the death of another great drummer, Clem Burke, who was the drummer with Blondie, and a really great drummer. Clem Burke was a fantastic drummer, energetic, cool, and with a whole ton of chops. He really could play, and he had something about him. And for me, he personifies almost the new wave drummer. He was one of the great ones, Who else do we get? Roy Thomas Baker, the producer of Queen and many other stuff. He died at the age of 78 in April. In May, we saw the death of Fede Muzo Souza, the African griot. It's like a string thing he played. He worked with a whole bunch of people, that sort of Bill Laswell end of the market. I know him for the album he made with Herbie Hancock, which was great in the 1980s. So he sadly died at the age of 75. And Rick Derringer died at the age of 77. I wish I could tell you a little bit more about him, but I can't. When I wrote it down, I did. Who did he play for? Rick Derringer. He was in. Oh, I'm out of my depth here, but he died. Can't say much about him, but I can say something about Sly Stone, who died in June at the age of 82. Of course, one of the first funk musicians. He expanded on soul, rhythm and blues. He had an integrated band, and really, Sly Stone, when people don't realise this, Sly Stone, when John McLaughlin and Billy Cobham and Michael Henderson invented jazz rock fusion on Jack Johnson in 1970s, the reason is because they were jabbing on a Sly Stone riff. Larry Graham's slap bass, it's just so important. This influenced, obviously people like Prince and all those artists, but it also influenced jazz rock fusion deeply. I think Sly Stone was so fundamental of combining a sort of that blood, sweat and tears brass section thing, the whole hippie psychedelic thing, with a funkiness that was only equaled at that time by James Brown. So yes, Sly Stone died at 82. Also, we saw Brian Wilson, the sort of genius behind the Beach Boys. Now, I've had a go at Brian Wilson many a time, haven't I? And it's not my cup of tea, but a giant in music. I'm not going to say much more of that. I've gone on about him so much. June also saw the death of the guitarist Mick Ralphs, who was 81 years old. What did he play with? Bad Company. I'm not great on these players. And the Argentinian composer Lalo Schifrin, who wrote music for the Dirty Harry movies. He wrote the theme to Mission Impossible. He died at the advanced age of 93. July saw the death of Dave Cousins, who was obviously a founder member of the Strawbs. And of course, a big one, we had the death of Ozzy Osbourne at 76 years old. Dave Cousins was 85. August saw the death of Terry Reid, who was the singer that Jimmy Page originally wanted for Led Zeppelin. He didn't want to do it, so because he got a deal, so he passed it on to Robert Plant. An incredible singer, an amazing talent, and one of those almost guys that should be a household name. Made the wrong decision, didn't you, Terry? But would it have worked with Terry and Led Zeppelin? I don't know. Another one that I am going to cover here, but a lot of the lists haven't covered for obvious reasons, was in August, Roy Estrada died in prison. Now, Roy Estrada is an important musician because he was a bass player in the Mothers of Invention, played all the way through, coming back to Zappa later on in the sort of Zoota Laws era. He appears in Baby Snakes. He had a very famous sort of falsetto that Zappa used. So a very iconic musician. But of course, those of us who know about Zappa know that he was a paedophile and was arrested for those sorts of crimes and incarcerated in prison 20 years or so ago. And he's died in prison. So a pretty vile man. But he did die in August. September saw the death of another Zappa, ex-Zappa, Mark Volman, one of the members of the Flo and Eddie duo. He with Howard Kaylan, he was the front of the Zappa's band in the early 70s. Not one of my favourite lineups, but still I love Zappa, so I still love that stuff. And before that, they'd had some hit records, including, I believe, I can't do this stuff with nobody but you for all my life. That's Mark Volman who sang that song, I hope. Like I said, I have really decided now with this channel to, if I'm doing something like this, I'm going to come in and just say what I know. I'm not going to do the research. I'm going to say what I know. So when I haven't got much to say about Rick Derringer, I know he's an important musician and I know he died, and I'm sure many of you are going, oh, I didn't realise Rick Derringer died. And I'm sure you'll know more about him than me. But I am going to really try and show you my knowledge, because this channel is about me and what I know. It's not about me trying to memorise bits off Wikipedia. So I feel more honest going forward. Another band, a prog band that I'm not a that well aware of is the Moody Blues. They come from up the road in Birmingham, and they played, with their Days of Future Past album, they played a huge role in the development of progressive rock, and John Lodge died at the age of 82 in October. I mentioned Angie Stone died. Bizarrely, at the age of 51, D'Angelo died. D'Angelo was probably the genius of that neo-soul movement, making Brown Sugar, Voodoo and Black Messiah, each album with like years in between them, but masterpiece albums. He'd been really troubled over the last few years, and he seemed to have died of, I think, cancer. A great loss, and of course he was in a relationship with Angie Stone for many years. October also saw Ace Frehley fall over in his house and die. So that was the first guy to go from the original Kiss lineup. And also Sam Rivers, who was the bass player with Limp Bizkit, not the jazz saxophone player. Sam Rivers died at the age of 48, very young. November, we saw the death of Gilson Lovis, who was the drummer with Squeeze and appeared on television as part of the Jules Holland Big Band, was sort of a very well-known drummer in my country. We saw the death of Manny, who'd been the bass player in Stone Roses and Primal Scream, only 63 years old. And another sad one for me was the death of Jimmy Cliff, my best friend, my mentor, a man that I love to bits, and an incredible musician, Kevin Gammon, that I mention every now and then on this channel. Kevin played with everybody, sort of founder member of Led Zeppelin with the band of Joy, playing with Rod Plant. And he formed the band Bronco in the early 70s. He worked with Jimmy Witherspoon. He worked with a whole bunch of people. Kev's a legend. But in his mid to late teens, he answered and had, I think, in Melody Maker, and became the guitarist for Jimmy Cliff, getting into all sorts of adventures. So it was sad to hear that Jimmy Cliff had died at the age of 81. December saw the death of Steve Cropper, the great Steve Cropper, the guy behind all those Stax hit records like Knock on Wood, and he was part of Booker T and the MGs, a very, very influential guitarist. And that's where my list finished when I wrote that a week or so ago, a couple of weeks ago. Now, since then, we've had Chris Rea die, famous for writing, The Road to Hell, and another song about driving home for Christmas. And ironically, he died on the 22nd December, 3 days before Christmas, in hospital after a routine sort of visit. And so he never did get home. I had to talk about Chris Rea on the BBC yesterday. They rang me up, and I'm not a great knowledge on Chris Rea, so I went and put his first album on. Fantastic, brilliant singer, brilliant songwriter. And he wrote Fool If You Think It's Over, which is an incredible piece of songwriting. He was a reluctant pop star. Chris Rea was an interesting guy, a reluctant pop star who was sort of thrust into the limelight just because of his sheer charisma and talent. But quite an unassuming guy, really strange. Sold 40 million, units, 40 million records. And for the last 20 years of his life was suffering with cancer. He had a stroke, so he really went through it. And I had a lot more respect listening to him. I thought these sort of guys, we just don't have these sort of songwriters anymore, incredible. And I feel, who else died a couple of weeks ago? There's somebody I've missed. But I think I've done all the deaths in terms of rock and pop. I've stuck the jazz guys in a different category. So obviously I put Roy Ayers next to Angie Stone, but on March the 4th, Roy Ayers died at the age of 84. And on May the 28th, the great drummer Al Foster died, who is probably most notable for drumming with Miles Davis in his funk period in the 70s, and then when he came back in the early 80s. And I've always felt that Al Foster was great with Miles, but was hemmed in, because in reality, he was a drummer in the sort of style of Tony Williams and a fantastic jazz drummer. There's an album called Royal Garden Blues by Branford Marsalis. It was, I think, his first solo album to come out. Al Foster's on drums, playing much more straight, hard bop drumming. Absolutely amazing, and influenced me greatly, especially his utilisation of the flanged hi-hat, which is where you kick the hi-hat open and shut. And he had a way of swinging and syncopating with that, which was very influential on me, the great Al Foster. Another incredible drummer that died in June on the 13th was Louis Moholo, who was a South African drummer that worked in the UK. And if you check out my interview with Gary Husband I did a few weeks ago, he was a huge influence on Gary Husband and a very important musician in that South African jazz, British jazz crossover that happened in the 60s and the 70s. July the 22nd saw the death of Chuck Mangione. He was always, for me, a little bit like Herb Alpert, and he was very sort of middle-of-the-road jazz. So a viewer of this channel sent me an early live album that features Tony Levitt on bass and Steve Gadd on drums. And this stuff's on fire. It's really, really great. So Chuck Mangione was a great player, and he was involved in a whole host of different music forms. And I think he got more out there than I thought. So I think I need to do a little bit more of exploration into Chuck Mangione. July the 24th saw the death of the great British jazz singer Cleo Lane, who was married to Johnny Dankworth and was a stalwart, a legend of British jazz. And she was incredibly 97 years old. The Latin jazz saw the death of, on August the 6th, Eddie Palmieri, very, very important player in Latin jazz. And another incredibly old jazz singer, this time American, we saw on August the 11th the death of Sheila Jordan at the advanced age of 96. The great Hermeto Pasquale, or Pascal to say it properly, I never know how to say these foreigners because I'm British. He died at the age of 89. If you haven't heard Hermeto Pascal, I cannot explain what he's like. Imagine a very eccentric Brazilian musician exploring Brazilian folk music and avant-garde jazz. Imagine fusing that with a sort of Frank Zappa stroke Sun Ra type of approach. Incredible and unique and absolutely brilliant. October the 26th saw the death of one of the greatest drummers that's ever lived. Probably in the top 5 greatest drummers of all time, Jack DeJohnette, who was 83 years old. The European fusion musician Klaus Doldinger, the guy behind Passport, an incredible, one of the great European fusion bands. He died at the age of 89. And Anthony Jackson, a legendary bass player, died at the age of 73. And I believe I saw that a week ago, Michael Urbaniak, the Polish jazz violinist, died. And if you haven't heard his albums, Fusion 1, 2, and 3, or whatever they are, with Steve Gadd, you haven't heard Fusion. They're intense. So those are the deaths. I've got through all the deaths now. Now I'm going to finish up with just going through some of the music events that happened, if this will scroll up and down. So I've got 4 events that happened this year. And this is what I really should be going on about in this video, but like I said, I'm not really that bothered about what's going on really, but there was a couple of ones that were important to me. At number 4, I've got the fact that Dream Theater got back together with Mike Portnoy. Let's turn this up a bit, like a bit of volume. Oh, it's scary. They're in a scary house. Jordan's there, he's got his music, you would have thought he'd have learned it. Oh, who's this walking in? Now, he's having a... Oh, he must have been asleep. He's been asleep. What's this, Among the Living by Anthrax? Oh my God, it's Portnoy's back, listen to the fills. Oh, this is what we want, isn't it? Big, meaty metal riffs. sound like Anthrax with lots of panoramic fills. Because of course, what makes a good drummer is panoramic fills. This is why Neil Peart was so good, you see. It's that. Shows you a good drummer when you can do that. Oh my god, it really has gone sounding like Anthrax now. There he is, Portnoy. He's got a headband on. I might get an headband. Oh! They're changing. I feel like I need to have a headband like Portnoy. Oh my god, how many toms has he got then? It's all about the toms. Here we go. I'll be ready for this in a minute. Oh, lots of finger movement, lots of complexity. This is what they love, isn't it? Oh, syncopating. Oh, it's very exciting now, isn't it? What do I do now? The one thing I don't get though is they're supposed to be back together, but they're not actually back together. They're all on their own in this house, aren't they? And I mean, is that to show that they're brave? I mean, I would. Oh, here he is. That was the blow. James and the Brie. James and the Brie. Brie is a type of cheese. That's all I'm saying. And well, I'll say a little bit more. I've always felt that James and the Brie, he brings a little bit of the cheese to Dream Theatre, doesn't he? He's having a look around in the scary house. None of them are scared. They're really, really brave. Oh, we've got one of those Elvis Presley mics. Maybe he's discovered that in the house. He's got trepidation though, hasn't he? Because he's by the door, so if anything comes his way, the Portnoy, he's got to set his old drum kits in the haunted house. He's not frightened at all. Oh, Portnoy's doing all those fiddly bits around all the cymbals, everything. Here he is, Jordan. Oh. This is obviously the hook. Sounds like the final countdown there, doesn't it? That is cool though. I mean, Jordan could have watched his keyboard. He looks ever so banky, doesn't it? Very banky keyboard. Boom. Or they modulate it to a different tempo. It's one of those compound time tempos that I'll bet you any money Portnoy does a 4 against it. The compound time. I know it's coming. It's prog, you see. Prog metal, they have to do it. There it is. Hear the right symbol. Oh, he's just one hand's in one time signature, one hand's in another time signature. They're brave. They can do multitasking. Mike's having it sing now. Bit of a bit wobbly camera work there. I can see the cameraman's a bit scared getting so close to the haunted house. They're doing everything on this. All the things that happen in rock, they're doing. Among the living. And here's a nice chorus. Like the Eurovision Song Contest song. Mike Portnoy's come back, you know. And it didn't seem to have the big hoo-ha that I thought it would. They went out on tour. People went to see him. Yeah. So that was a little bit. I mean, what happened there? And now what are they going to do now? Are they going to do another album, another tour? I don't know. I feel that this happened because Dream Theatre's star is waning. Why would it be waning? Why would Dream Theater's star be waning? It's a hard one because many rock bands, if you think of bands like Extreme and, they've come back and been able to, really bring their brand forward. At the moment, you've got The Darkness going out doing something similar, but both of those bands have a sort of dirtiness and urgency that we associate with rock, and Dream Theater don't have that. I wonder whether their brand of sort of hair metal, fused with Rush, whether that's, I don't know, not as cool as it once seemed. It was never really cool, was it? I don't know. But I thought this would be a bigger thing, but it wasn't. Number 3 on my list of the bigger music events of 2025 was Oasis, and that was a big thing. It was all over the TV, it was all over the radio. I got called up by the BBC to talk about it. They went out on tour, and a lot of this was the fact that we were going to suddenly see Liam and Noel, making friends and putting their arm around each other, and I found it quite moving to see them do that. I think many of us, as time has gone on, have got a softer and softer spot for those guys because they're a real rock band and they play the guitar, bass and drums, and they went out on stage. They didn't have backing tracks. They just played. Oh, God, I can't believe that's run out. The battery ran out. I've got this camera and I love it. It's so little and diddly. It gets a nice image. It's easy to use, but it runs out of bloody power. Now, I think I can power if I've got the right cable in it. It's one of those bloody USB things, the Mac things, bloody Apple, bloody taking everything over again. Anyway, so I'll finish off on my phone. As you can see the difference, can't you? It's not the same, is it, on the phone? So, yeah, Oasis, they returned. That was good. I enjoyed the fact that they did. I think it did music, proper music, and played music good. But, of course, the big event of 2025 would be, for me, the Black Sabbath gig. When Black Sabbath came back, everyone came in to honour them. I live streamed. I had about 100,000 people watching me until bloody Sharon Osbourne and her company decided to put a copyright strike against me, which did dull the whole thing for me. But an incredible event. And, of course, a few weeks later, Ozzy died. That was a big thing. But for me, at the number 1 is perhaps the reformation of Rush. That's about to happen. Is that going to be? Are we going to see this year? Well, the Nika Niles on drums is all very exciting, isn't it? So that was my roundup of the year. Happy New Year to you all. I think I'm done. If you like this video, subscribe and like and do all those things. And I'm done. And we go on into the new year, don't we now? So that's all very exciting. I will be looking at, as I normally do, going back to 1986 and 76 and 66. I might do 96. I ain't doing 2006. I never liked 2006 anyway. I had a bad time in that year. And I can't remember anything that was going on. Let us say that's the fact about 2006. It was a bloody terrible year. So we're done there. All done. Thank you very much. See you on the next one.
Represents a moment in everyone's life where they can be stopped in their tracks and their life changed for the rest of time. This is Miles Smith and you're listening to a new EP, A Minute, out out now on Spotify. Click the link to check it out.
Lean into the sounds you love. Take your playlists anywhere with offline downloads, or play your song of the moment again and again with unlimited repeats. Get all the music without hearing audio ads on Spotify Premium. Tap the button to
Open up your eyes.
Oh, you listen to me. You got no props or competency. You like to mess around, but you got no feelings underground. You know, oh, you listen to me. You got no props or competency. You like to mess around, but you got no feelings underground. You know.
Ho ho, your memory all alone. Press play, your mind's a dictaphone. Say yes, then you might say no. Press stop, ready, set, let's go.
Oh my God, don't you know you're gonna end up all alone? Oh my God, don't you know you're gonna end up all alone? Oh, you listen to me. You got no props or competency. You like to mess around, but you got no feelings underground. You know, oh, you listen to me. You got no props or competency. You like to mess around, but you got no feelings underground. You know.
Look right up, look right down. See your feet upon the ground. See your head up in the sky. Doesn't it make you wonder why?
Oh my God, don't you know you're gonna end up all alone? Oh my God, don't you know you're gonna end up all alone? You like to mess around, but you got no feelings underground. You know, oh, you listen to me. You got no props or competency. You like to mess around, but you got no feelings underground. You know,
Oh my God, don't you know you're gonna end up all alone? Oh my God, don't you know you're gonna end up all alone? Oh my God, don't you know you're gonna end up all alone? Oh my God, don't you know you're gonna end up all alone?
oh, you listen to me. You got no props or competency. You like to mess around, but you got no feelings underground. You know, oh, you listen to me. You got no props or competency. You like to mess around, but you got no feelings underground. You know.
I love you all. Bye bye.
Close your eyes and hold my hand. It's time